Guys, today I will be sharing how to make caramel mud cake with white chocolate Swiss meringue buttercream. For the ingredients, we need 150 ml of cream. This is 2 and 1/3 cup of sugar, 125 ml of water, 1.5 teaspoon of salt, 1 teaspoon of vanilla, and 2 tablespoons of corn syrup. If you don't have corn syrup, you can use glucose. So to begin, we're going to combine the sugar and the water. We're also going to add 2 tablespoons of corn syrup. And then turn on the stove with the heat setting medium to low heat. Make sure to keep an eye on this. Cover this with lid so you don't need to brush the side of the pan so you don't get crystallization. The steam will prevent the sugar or the caramel from crystallizing. So while you're waiting for this, prepare your pan. Cover it with parchment paper on the side and on the bottom. At this point, I want this color to be darker so we get a strong caramel flavor. Just like this is now ready. Make sure to turn off the heat. Add the cream. Be careful at this point because this will steam a lot and you might get burned if you're not careful. So mix this. Add the salt. And 1 teaspoon of vanilla. At this point, I'm going to turn back the heat and I will continue to cook this for at least a minute so I get the strong caramel flavor. 1 minute or less than 1 minute. I just want this to boil again. Three eggs, 2.5 teaspoons of baking powder, 3 cups of flour, 180 grams of white chocolate, 350 grams of butter, 375 ml of fresh milk, and the caramel that we made before. So in a saucepan, combine the 375 ml of fresh milk and the 350 grams of butter. We're going to melt the butter. Once the butter is melted, you can turn off the heat and then we can add the caramel sauce. Make sure to get all the caramel. Use a whisk to mix everything together. While this is still hot, we can add the white chocolate. Again, the white chocolate is 180 grams. Remember, turn off the heat once the butter is melted. And then I'm going to let this cool down before I add the eggs. So in a separate bowl, I will crack in 3 eggs. Using a fork, I'm going to beat this egg. Our caramel milk butter mixture has cooled down. We can now then add the egg. By the way, your oven should be preheated at 150 degrees Celsius. Sift in the flour and the baking powder. Use a whisk to fully combine the ingredients but do not overmix. Once this is well combined, we can transfer this into the prepared pan. I will be using two 8 by 3 round cake pan. I lined it with parchment paper on the side and at the bottom. So we're going to bake these in a preheated oven again at 150 degrees Celsius. Mud cake needs to be baked low and slow. So we'll bake this for 75 to 90 minutes or until when you insert the skewer in the middle and the skewer comes out clean. So this is what it looks like after baking. Let this cool down completely before using it. So I'll be using this cake tomorrow, but for you it's today as well. So I'm going to cover this with cling wrap. Let this just sit at room temperature. "150 grams of white chocolate and 75 ml of whipping cream or thickened cream or cream. So we're going to melt this in the microwave for 40 seconds. Mix this until the chocolate is fully dissolved. If it doesn't fully dissolve, put it back in the microwave for at least 10 seconds. So we will set this aside to cool down completely. So we're going to make the Swiss meringue buttercream now. 294 grams of sugar, 1 teaspoon of vanilla, 441 grams of butter, and 147 grams of egg whites. Combine the egg whites and the sugar. Make sure that the egg whites doesn't contain any fat on it. So on a double boiler, we're going to cook the egg whites until there's no more sugar. So use your fingers to feel the sugar. Once the sugar is all dissolved, we can take this out of the heat. At this point, we're going to use an electric mixer to beat the meringue. Beat this until it cools down and it forms soft peaks, just like this. Or until it is glossy, just like this. At this point, we can gradually add the butter. My butter is at room temperature, but it's not too soft. At this point, we can add the ganache or the white chocolate cream mixture in a slow, steady stream. Continue mixing until the mixture comes together. Don't forget to scrape the side of the bowl. And before I forget, add 1 teaspoon of vanilla. And then give this a final mix. By the way, my mixer speed is high. And this is now ready. So I'm going to cut the top of the cake, and then so we don't have a dome. Don't discard the trimmings because we're going to use that later for crumbs. So cut the cake in half. All in all, we have 4 layers. So here we're going to assemble the cake. So put generous amount of Swiss meringue buttercream as filling. So continue doing this until you finish with the last layer. So we're on the top of the cake now. So just put a generous amount on the top and let the excess icing go to the side of the cake. I'm not the best cake decorator, so just bear with me here. At this point, I'm going to put this in the fridge for at least 15 minutes. After 15 minutes, I'm ready to put my final icing on the cake. I know you can do a better job icing a cake. So just smooth the icing until you're happy with this. Now I'm just piping shell border on top of my cake. And then remember the cake that we cut before. I use a food processor to make crumbs. Just put it at the bottom of the cake for decoration. This is optional. And then I made extra caramel. I use half a cup of sugar, 3 tablespoons of water, and half a cup of cream, half a tablespoon of corn syrup, but this is optional as well. Same process as we did when making the caramel before. So this caramel is slightly darker. So I decided to put a little bit of dripping on the side. This is optional. And this is the finished product. I hope you give this a try. The video is so long, but I just want to make this as one video. So I hope you give this a try. I can guarantee that you're going to love this cake. The cake is really moist and really delicious. And just to show you what it looks like inside the cake when you cut it. So give this a try. Remember not to burn your sugar when you're making the caramel, because burnt caramel is bitter. So this is our finished product. As you can see, it's moist. Do not put this in the fridge because the cake have a lot of butter. If you put this in the fridge, the cake will get hard. You have to wait at room temperature to enjoy eating it. So again, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again next week. Bye!